started with a storm, a note, and a man called Tank. Nobody expected a hero's final ride, or a newborn named Hope. Blizzards don't wait for miracles. They swallow roads, freeze engines, and bring grown men to their knees. But on the longest night of the year, at a forgotten gas station in North Dakota, someone left a tiny bundle behind. Most people would have missed it, hurrying inside to escape the biting wind. But Tank was not most people. He was a 71-year-old Vietnam vet whose leather jacket had seen more snow, rain, and dust than most semis. People called him Tank because nothing ever seemed to stop him. Not war, not heartbreak, and not winter. But even Tank was about to be tested more than he'd ever dreamed. He stepped inside the restroom not to shelter, but to warm up just enough to keep going, his Harley idling outside. That's when he heard the whimper. Low, weak. He froze, listening. The wind rattled the door, but the sound came again. The tiniest, pleading cry. Tank's boots echoed as he crossed the tile. There beside the trash can, swaddled in a tattered blue blanket, was a newborn baby girl. Her skin was bluish, her lips cracked, and her cries grew quieter with every passing second. Next to her, Tank saw a note written in faded marker. Her name is Hope. Heart problem, needs surgery within 72 hours. For a moment, the old biker just stared. His hero medals meant little now. He saw the baby's fragile breath and the patch sewn to her blanket. Hope! The world shrank to his heartbeat and hers. He lifted her gently, careful not to jostle her tiny chest. Outside, the storm grew wilder. Ambulances wouldn't make it. Roads shut down, visibility near zero. Tank's mind raced, remembering stories of abandoned children, soldiers he'd lost, promises he'd made to always look out for the vulnerable. He tucked the baby inside his jacket, covering her with his own warmth. No phone signal, no help. Just him and the open road. 800 miles to the nearest children's hospital in Billings, Montana. Tank zipped his jacket as if it were body armor. "Hang on, Hope," he muttered. "You picked the right stubborn bastard." He started his Harley with one shaking hand, cradling Hope against his chest. The engine roared, echoing Tank's resolve. As the snow whipped past, Tank hunched low to block the wind. Every mile became a test. Visibility dropped to feet. Ice slicked the roads. His worn-out bones ached from cold. He talked to her as he rode. "I used to be scared too. I saw things that made me wish I could fix the world for just one kid." He remembered Vietnam, how he'd been just as small as Hope once, barely old enough to grow a mustache, thrown into chaos. "But life gives you moments," Tank whispered. "Moments to choose what kind of man you want to be. You just hang on, Hope. Old Tank's still got fight left." Hours blurred. The blizzard's breath howled, eyebrows frosted. Tank couldn't feel his feet, but he kept going, muttering war stories, telling Hope about sunsets in Saigon, about the day he first rode a Harley. She whimpered, but every time he feared she'd stop breathing, he tapped her gently, cradling her even closer. At mile 312, a passing truck skidded and spun onto the shoulder. The driver hopped out, face wrapped in scarves. "Man, it's suicide," he shouted. "You need help?" "I need to get this baby to a hospital." Tank's voice was tight but clear. The driver looked at the bundle inside Tank's jacket, just a flash of pale skin and blue cotton. He gasped, "Buddy, you're a madman." "But you're also her only chance." Tank nodded, took a gallon of coffee from the trucker, enough to keep his blood moving, and kept riding. Miles passed. Hope slept, waking only to whimper. Tank sang to her, old biker anthems and lullabies he half remembered from his own mother. Every time her breath wavered, he gritted his teeth against the cold, remembering the promise he made the day he left Vietnam. Never leave anyone behind. By midnight, Tank knew he was risking it all. His vision blurred, exhaustion, hypothermia, memories washing over him in waves. He saw the faces of old friends, heard the thunder of choppers overhead, the cries of wounded soldiers, but the warmth against his chest, Hope's tiny heartbeat, kept him moving, one trembling hand curled around the throttle, the other protecting the life inside his jacket. At mile 510, the Harley sputtered. Tank cursed the cold, desperate. He kicked the engine. It roared back to life, just enough to keep going. His legs were numb, hands like stone. Tank thought about the baby's note. Needs surgery within 72 hours. He counted hours from the moment he'd found her. 18 gone already. No time for fear, he muttered, voice hoarse. He remembered the day his own daughter was born, how he'd sworn to always protect her. She'd passed away at 12, a heart defect doctors hadn't caught in time. Tank never talked about her, but tonight he could almost smell the shampoo in her hair, hear her laughter. I didn't save you, Lila, he whispered, but I can save hope. The world shrank to the blizzard in the baby's breath. When the dawn broke somewhere west of Bozeman, Tank's body was stiff as a plank, but his mind was burning. He stopped for gas, careful not to let hope out of his coat. The clerk's eyes widened when she saw the baby. You got a child with you in this storm? She exclaimed. Her name's Hope, Tank replied. She needs a doctor. Help me call ahead. The clerk fumbled with the phone, tears in her eyes. I'll get someone waiting. Tank paid with all the cash he had, hands trembling worse than ever, then zipped Hope back inside. The final push beckoned, less than 120 miles, but the hardest of all. He thought about the hundreds of biker rides he'd made for charity, the medals he'd got for action and bravery. This ain't medals, he whispered to Hope. It's real. But the cold was winning. His breath slowed, eyelids heavy as iron. Still, he kept going. As the sun struggled to rise above the endless white fields, Tank's mind drifted somewhere between memory and hope. The Harley's engine coughed and rattled like an old veteran's chest. But the sound kept him grounded. To the world, to his mission, and to the life he was cradling in his arms. He remembered a promise he'd made to Lila, his daughter, when she was still alive, whispered late at night after reading her favorite book. I'll always come back for you, kiddo. No matter how hard the road, losing her nearly broke him. But this morning, somewhere near Livingston, Montana, Tank felt her spirit riding with him, whispering encouragement through the blizzard. The pain in his chest grew worse. He gritted his teeth and pressed on, repeating his mantra with every pulse of the engine. Don't stop. Don't freeze. Give Hope a chance. Hope whimpered and twisted weakly in his jacket, her face pressed to his chest for warmth. Her breathing sounded ragged, but she hung on. Each time the motorcycle lurched on icy pavement, Tank steadied her. He ignored the numbness spreading through his legs and hands. Frostbite was a distant threat. Life had taught him the rule. Rescue first, pain second. Around mile 600, the wind bit through even his thick leather. Visibility dropped to a few feet. Tank kept going, knees locked, one hand hovering over Hope's fragile body, the other gripping the Harley's throttle like the lifeline it was. The hospital was close now. Maybe an hour, maybe less. He thought again of Vietnam, riding through danger, enemy fire, jungles alive with fear. Heroism had never been the medals they gave him. It was the small stuff. Keeping his friends close, saving lives when nobody else could, saving even one person made everything else bearable. As hope began to stir, Tank spoke to her in a shaky whisper. You're going to beat this, little one. You're not alone. He talked to her about her name, about what hope meant when bullets flew and hearts broke. He asked her to fight. The blizzard grew worse. His mind wandered to the promise in her note. Surgery within 72 hours. He did the math. Time was running out. The urgency sharpened his focus. He leaned further over the handlebars, muscles tense and unyielding. He remembered every friend lost to doubt, every mistake that haunted him at night. The Harley wasn't just carrying them. It was Tank's confession, prayer, and final act all in one. Just as the bike rattled over the last frozen bridge, Tank saw the blurry lights of Billings in the distance. Relief surged through his veins, warming him momentarily. The hospital's emergency entrance loomed. Red lights, faint movement. He pushed through, drawing on every last reserve of strength. The Harley sputtered, nearly collapsing beneath him, but Tank willed it forward. As he pulled up, nurses rushed outside, their faces pale with shock and awe. Tank unzipped his jacket and gently passed Hope into the arms of the nearest nurse. "She's got a heart problem," he gasped. "Don't waste a second." The nurse looked at Tank's frozen face and then at the baby's lips, now almost blue. She barked orders. Doctors scurried into action. Hope disappeared inside, the double doors slamming behind her. Tank staggered from the bike, his legs failing. He almost didn't feel the collapse, only the snow's sudden coldness, the memory of Lila's voice, the sound of the Harley's engine fading into the wind. The world turned to white noise. He was vaguely aware of someone shouting, hands lifting him, the hospital's light overhead. Tank's last thought was a wish. Let her live. Let me make this one right. Hours later, news traveled fast in a small town, especially when a Harley breaks the storm. The nurses called the police, the hospital called the local VFW, and soon a steady stream of bikers, vets, and strangers arrived to see if Tank and Hope had made it. Doctors worked on the baby for hours. Her heart condition was severe, but Tank's warmth had stabilized her enough to give her a fighting chance. When she finally emerged from surgery, pinker and breathing easier, it was as if all the suffering Tank endured had transferred into her survival. But Tank was gone, found on the roadside, frozen but still wrapped around the baby's blanket. A medic whispered sadly, "He protected her right up to the end." Aftermath and legacy. The news went viral. TV crews came for interviews. Newspapers ran with headlines. "Veteran's final ride saves newborn." A local biker club organized a tribute ride. Hundreds of Harleys rumbling through Billings, raising funds for Hope's care. Old friends recounted Tank's stories, how he'd fix anyone's bike for free, how he mentored troubled teens and rescued stray animals. People sent donations from across the country. The hospital cleared Hope's bills and volunteers offered to adopt her. Nurses gave her a new blanket stitched with her name and a small Harley patch in Tank's honor. Hope grew stronger each day. Her recovery became a symbol that love and sacrifice could overcome any odds. On Christmas Eve, a memorial plaque went up at the hospital entrance. "This door is for Tank and Hope. May we always remember the power of a final ride." Veterans told war stories and talked about how Tank finally found the peace he chased for decades. Bikers wept, hugged, and promised to look after Hope however they could. Years later, when Hope was old enough to understand her story, she visited the hospital with a group of bikers, men and women who'd ridden with Tank and carried his legacy. She laid flowers at the memorial plaque and rode in the sidecar of a gleaming Harley, feeling the wind Tank once fought. She was living proof that a hero's sacrifice can echo for generations. Coda. The message. If you believe a single act of courage can change the world, even if nobody is watching, remember Tank and Hope. Remember that brotherhood is more than a patch on a jacket. Sometimes it means risking everything for a stranger, and sometimes the toughest ride leads straight to the heart. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true stories of bravery, hope, and biker heroism.